Hello and welcome to Grocer Pod. My name's Sean Kosednar. Today I'm joined in the studio by Crystal Gonzales. Crystal is AWG's Director of Hispanic and International Sales. We're going to talk about how AWG members can attract and serve their multicultural customer base. Before we get to Crystal, I want to remind you, please subscribe to Grocer Pod. Subscribing means new episodes will be downloaded for you each week. You can find Grocer Pod on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform you use. Crystal, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Sean. It's nice to be here.
So let's start out. What multicultural demographics does AWG and VMC serve?
Right now, when we look at the population of the United States, about 62% of that population is a Mexican consumer. However, we're seeing a rise in more of a Central and South American consumer coming to the United States, specifically from Venezuela, Colombia, Brazil, and Peru. So we're, I would say, 100% assorted for that Mexican consumer, but we still have some opportunities and some growth for more Central and South American consumers. And
so I know this is going to be a very hard question, and obviously every country has multiple cultures within it. What can AWG member retailers do to kind of serve that very broad demographic while also maybe providing like some specific things?
Absolutely. We like to look at 6 levers. So there's kind of 6 areas to really concentrate if you're really serving this community in its entirety. And that's creating an environment to where, as a consumer, I feel invited in your store. I walk in, I'm like, okay, you want me here? You want my business? Is the language in Spanish? Is it just in English? Most prefer a Spanglish, so somewhere in between. Do you have products for me? Meaning, are there the brands that I shop, that I grew up on, my mama used them, my grandmother used them? Do I find those in your store? Because that tells me if you want me there. Displays, packaging, which is all consumers, right? Put it on display, sign it, let me know what's there. Obviously, enhanced value, and then online. So we see an even higher trend of Hispanic consumers shopping and researching online versus non-Hispanic households. So it's very much an emerging market for that Hispanic consumer.
Yeah, I would think that would make a lot of sense especially if someone isn't a native English speaker. You know, they can be online, have it translated for them, find everything, have it picked for them, and all they have to do is come and,
right? Just have to
come and pick it up. So we're going to get to a hard question right off the bat. I know that there's a lot of talk all over about, should grocery stores have an ethnic section, an ethnic aisle? What do we suggest for AWG retailers?
Most of our retailers segregate those sections. So most of our retailers, and I would say, to answer the hard question, yes, we should all have a section or an assortment of some sort. Most of our retailers segregate that section. So they have an international aisle, and it's Hispanic. It may be broken out based on the different types of consumers that are shopping there. But yes, everyone should have that dedicated section.
Does that mean that they shouldn't have some of those ingredients that you're going to find in that section just mixed in with the regular stock as well?
I would say there's no right or wrong answer. What I have found is that's still very much an opinion. I'm a believer of segregated sets, but I think you have to create that culture in your store. So if you have a store right now where you don't really have that consumer, it doesn't make sense to integrate it. It makes sense to take it out, put it on its own, and draw attraction to it. But if you already have that and you have that consumer there and you see it continuing increasing, then it is time to start integrating some of those. And that's some of the work we do here. We have our planograms that kind of stand alone. You can take it and make your aisle, and it has all the items. But we also work with our center store friends or our HBC or GM counterparts and integrate our items into those planograms where it makes sense.
What do we see about how shopping habits are changing amongst the ethnic demographics?
Yeah, this is a fun question. So pre-COVID, so you think back 3+ years back, we saw shopping as a Hispanic group, as a Latin consumer. It was usually done with a family. It was a trip. It was an outing that a family took together. And in that shopping, they were walking every aisle. And so they were spending that time as family time. COVID happened, shutdowns happened, there was restrictions. Now we see it to where mom takes that shopping trip, and that's me time. I don't want my kids. I don't want my husband there. I'm going to use this time for me and enjoy it and look at what I want to look at and shop that way.
That's really interesting. So does that change what they're buying?
I don't think it changes what they're buying, but it most certainly can change the amount of time they spend in a store. So not necessarily maybe going down every aisle, but she's coming there as a destination. I'm looking for certain things. And that's where fresh is really important, and having that perimeter right.
We've touched on some of these already, but what strategies are used to better serve the needs of these unique customers?
As far as how AWG helps our customers serve that, we like to provide as much education as we can. So we provide 2, I would say, books every year. One is fourth quarter. And that what it does is it explains all of those holidays in fourth quarter that are specific to this community. What is their time frame? What does the holiday mean? What are the items that I need to be ready for that holiday? And then the second book is Lent. And Lent is a huge holiday for us. And it's the same concept. How do I merchandise it? What do I need to merchandise? Do I have all the deals on the right items? And do I have what everyone's looking for?
So I assume that fourth quarter book has already gone out then?
It has. And Lent will be distributed here in the next couple of weeks.
So everyone definitely be on the lookout for those. How is AWG and VMC helping retailers better connect with the multicultural consumers?
I would say through the books, through the communication, through the education, we have started a rigorous process of making sure we have our planograms updated. That's because I and, our buyers, our category manager, we can't be every store, right? So what are the tools that we can give our counterparts in order to help that education? The books are important to that because it kind of helps explain what that consumer is looking for during a specific time frame. The planograms are very helpful because then it's not a phone call of, do I have the right items? If you're referencing the planogram, you have the right items.
Yeah, those planograms are very important, and I know how much effort goes into putting them together. What advice do you have for a retailer looking to enhance their ability to serve multicultural consumers?
Fresh, making sure your fresh selection is correct. So when you walk into a store, making sure you have the right produce, you have the items that folks are looking for. It's not a price conscientious consumer per se. Price is not the first determining factor, but you have to have the right assortment and be relevant in pricing. So having our produce right, having our meat right, making sure we have the right cuts and the right seasons of what we're looking for, and then the bakery.
And it's interesting that you say that because it's really no different than attracting any other customer. Correct. I mean, it seems like regardless of who I have in here and talk about what stores need to be doing, they're talking about, make sure that your fresh departments are good. And that's really what's driving people to your store in 2023 and 2024.
Yep. Well, when you look at front pages of ads, what do you see? You see produce and meat, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how, because those are the big dollars that people spend in your store or how they decide to go to your store. So if it's coming across as, okay, you have the aromas, you have all the things that I'm looking for as a consumer, then you have them. And
it makes sense if the multicultural community that's shopping at your store is primarily an immigrant population. They're not looking for the processed foods that you're finding in the center of the store. Like, they're looking for the fresh foods.
That's absolutely correct.
One other question that I have for you is, what should stores be doing to highlight some of these products to, for lack of a better word, just like a traditional, like, white American consumer? Like, their interest in these products is growing amongst that demographic as well. And so even if you think that you don't have this, big multicultural population shopping in your store, I bet you still have customers that are interested in these products and would be gladly buy them from you.
That is a fantastic point, and it's absolutely true. What I see a lot are people are looking, do I have that customer? Well, it may not be a customer from a certain country or an immigrant, someone immigrating here. It could be you and I expanding our palates and our cooking habits at home. So it's really for everybody.
And I think another thing is, regardless of where your store is located, maybe you're not in a big immigrant community, but there are a lot of people from a lot of different cultures that just like live in the community, that have been in America for, decades and generations. They probably want these products too. And, not having to drive across town to get them is going to make your store even more attractive.
Agreed. And to really go back to your original question, ensuring that we're highlighting not just the item, so not just from an ad perspective, but are you setting that tone in your store? So when it's Day of the Dead, when I walk in your store, do I know that it's Day of the Dead? Do you have the skulls? Are you offering the certain pastries that are needed? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like really merchandising your store to highlight these holidays that are super important to that consumer.
And I would think that it would be easy to get buy-in from your bakery department that's already making stuff and like, oh, how about this week we make something a little bit different, add something that's just going to give them some variety instead of, just doing the same thing over and over and over again. Well, Crystal, is there anything else you want to add? Any other advice that you have for AWG members?
I would say to end it, just to highlight, and I would say maybe reiterate to some folks that our Latin consumers on average are significantly younger than a non-Hispanic consumer. So when you look at this data, a Hispanic consumer on average is 28 years old compared to a non-Hispanic of 43 years.
Oh, wow.
So that's a much younger consumer. So the tactics that you got mom in the store with may have to be a little different to get the younger folks in. And that's where digital online become much more important.
And I can see where that's going to be tough for some retailers because like offering certain produce or different cuts of meat, that's an easy thing that they can do. Like the butcher counter knows how to make those cuts. That's not hard for them. Making, culturally relevant, digital posts in a language that you don't speak is pretty tough. So are there any resources that AWG has to help that process?
Absolutely. AWG has a fantastic marketing team, and I've had the honor of working with them a little bit and seeing some of the things that they can create. We have a few of our customers that have partnered with our marketing team, and then obviously some of them have their own marketing teams. But social media, I can't discount how important that is. We have a retailer that has multiple influencers. So those influencers are tied to their store and their brand. And then they're taking brands and they're taking items. And so it all kind of starts coming together.
Yeah, I would think that if you could just add, a couple of times a month, a Spanish language post, and not necessarily just directly translate one of your English posts into Spanish, but like a specific, Spanish post, that would do a lot to increase that customer base for your store.
Agreed.
Well, Crystal, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
And thank you all for listening. Again, please like and subscribe to Grocer Pod so you can automatically hear all the latest things going on around AWG. And until next time, this has been Sean Kosednar for Grocer Pod.